Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of incredible entrepreneurs, one digital footprint at a time. With me, I have my new best friend, Manny Flores. How you doing, man?
Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto, el gusto es mío. Si vamos aquí en español, nos vamos en español todo el rato. No hay ningún problema, compadre. Imperial Protective Services. Mm-hmm. What does Imperial Protective Services do?
All right, so Imperial Protective Services is a security solutions and consulting company founded by my father about 15 years ago.
All right.
And we operate in a number of different categories. We operate in private investigations, executive and VIP protection, what we call armed guard services.
Okay.
So it could be armed or unarmed, asset transportation, so a number of full service solutions.
With the increased perceived or real threat, I mean, and I'm just going to put it that way, internationally and here domestically as well, have you found that there are more calls coming your way going, hey, we need protection, whereas maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you didn't get those calls?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a greater awareness. I think, Homeland Security was really promoting this notion of see something, say something. So
Yep.
I think that's made the population in general just a bit more aware of their surroundings.
Are we creating, though, a rat society where, people are just narking on each other and they're just, or is it a gentle awareness where if you see, I mean, what do you determine funny? I mean, look, we're a society that celebrates Halloween. You're going to have a lot of weird people walking around the streets with custom, I mean, what
Yeah, we've certainly, I think communities have always had that nosy neighbor that looks out the window and reports everything they see. So yes, there's definitely a bit of clutter, out there, but I think it's better to have a safe than sorry mentality, and that's certainly what we try to encourage. We try not to encourage, people taking entire community groups and, putting some perception that's being promoted out there,
Sure.
On them, but we definitely think that see something, say something is an important thing to be aware of.
Do people contract your services nationally and internationally, or just here in the United States?
Yeah, so internationally we only do executive protection, and we do some cross-border extraction type stuff. It's such a small segment of our business that we don't even market it.
What does it mean, cross-border extraction?
So employees that might be in the middle of a protest or a government takeover or something like that, like a coup is occurring in a country, and so you have corporate executives that might be stranded in a hotel.
They send you over and you extract them.
They'll hire our services to help consult on an extraction. Correct.
They consult in an extraction. Kidnappings.
Kidnappings. Yep.
Are there more frequent? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff you can't talk about specifically, but let's talk about just in general terms. Do people, are all these things happening and the public is really not aware about it because, it never gets to the news. But is it real? I mean, are these things happening? Are extractions happening? Are kidnappings happening? Are ransoms being paid that we don't know about as a society?
Yeah, I think kidnappings for sure. You just have to do a Google search, especially living in a border state like, Arizona. I think there's always, even on the State Department's website, it talks about, being vigilant when it comes to crossing into border communities because of a higher prevalence of kidnappings.
How do you get into this business? I know your father started this company about 15 years ago. Now, Did you start with your father, or did you kind of grow into the business? Your father calls you up and said, your father is extracting you actually from somewhere else, from another industry.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. So my father spent his entire career in law enforcement. So most founders of security companies have that kind of a background. And his emphasis was on narco trafficking, so sort of the drug enforcement side of things.
But he's got stories.
He's got a ton of stories. He doesn't want me to tell any of them.
We're not going to tell it.
But he does have a ton of stories. He did extract me from my industry. I've spent my entire career as a strategy consultant, marketing consultant. And over the last 15 years since he started this company, he sort of picked my brain on sort of the business management side of things. So obviously the operational side, he's excellent at. The business management side, he wanted to leverage my background. So there was an opportunity about 6 months ago to do that full time, and so I'm a recent addition to the family business, I guess.
The services that you provide, well, I would imagine they're not just for people that are in danger or in immediate danger, if you will, and need your services, but rather if there's a celebrity or a professional athlete that might need some protection going to an event or whatnot, you provide those services as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about being we call it being a deterrent force.
Okay.
And so there are a number of executives, Fortune 100 companies that hire us when they're speaking at industry conferences, when they're traveling, when there's family traveling, and it's really just to be a deterrent against potential threat.
See, I'm still stuck where, let's say that if I call your services, I'm still stuck with with Guido and and his friend that show up in their 70s suit, and they're tall as a huge building, and they show up, and that's a deterrent. That to me is a deterrent. But I would imagine that people that you contract are certainly very conspicuous, and you might not even know that they're there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the marketing phrases that my dad likes to use is unseen, unheard, unafraid. So we try not to stand out. I mean, I think
Right.
Celebrities, they kind of like the attention that is drawn to them when they have big, lurching bodyguards,
Exactly.
surrounding them. But I think most people prefer to keep it anonymous.
How do you market? Your background is marketing, as you said. How do you market this service?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's delicate to market the kind of service, because I mean, you want to know that, you want to tell people that this is what you do, but at the same time, you yourself don't want to become a target, I would imagine.
Yeah, so marketing. We use traditional methods for marketing. We do some paid media. A lot of stuff is done online. I think most of the marketing that we do is trying to be on the more of the touchy-feely side. So there's of course the word of mouth. I think with any industry, word of mouth is going to be your biggest marketing channel. But the touchy-feely side is, we like to sponsor conferences and events and educate the community. So we do, we try to be sort of teachers and guides within the industry, and I think that sort of thought leadership is a effective way of marketing this type of a solution.
As an entrepreneur and looking at this business, how do you grow this business? How, as an entrepreneur, I mean, you got to have a vision. All right, I want to have 10 offices nationwide or internationally. What are your goals? How do you grow this business?
Yeah, so scaling this type of business is a challenge, because you don't want to overinvest and then not have the business, and then you don't want to underinvest and then have lots of business. So we try to set modest incremental goals. So we've taken the category and we've broken it up into different segments, and we've done a competitive analysis of who operates in these different segments and how best to compete against them. And so, I call that market opportunity analysis. So we're identifying where the market opportunity exists for a company like ours, a company that's not a multi-billion-dollar company like a Securitas or a GS, and something that's not, a mom and pop, company either. So where can we take what we like to call unique within our value proposition and apply that to individual market segments? So it could be a different growth strategy depending on which segment we are going into.
And it's challenging because, again, I mean, you could overexpand and then the business is not there. That's truly, the challenge that we as entrepreneurs have, right? I mean, you go ahead and invest in hiring that extra individual because you had a good month or you had a couple of good months, and then going forward might not be there.
Yeah.
And how many people or how many offices do you have nowadays?
So we have 2 offices, and we employ about 50 people.
So that's a great size organization.
I think it's a good size organization for now. I think one of the behaviors that my father really liked to promote is just sort of like a real customer service oriented business. He didn't want us to be on the anonymous side. And so I think that has sort of kept us almost contained from a growth perspective. So what we need to be able to do is sort of pivot outside of that containment and grow, but still maintain that, warm, touchy-feely sort of interaction we have with our customers, which they like.
Do you recall kind of one of the weirdest calls or requests for services that you received?
We get calls from entertainment companies from Las Vegas to escort their escorts around town.
That is an interesting call. And next, I'm going to give you my phone number. And next time you get that phone call, I lift weights. I'm not.
I also volunteered for the assignment. But.
You and me, baby. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're out.